expert. Good morning. What in particular are you keen to hear when the task force presents its report?
Yeah, good morning, Olive Barrows. I suspect my audibility is quite okay. I'm coming all the way from Kigali here in Rwanda. It's 1 hour difference. That explains the darkness that is still engulfing the country here. But I'm quite happy that today I sit with very eloquent, very knowledgeable sisters. So the fraternal presence today is quite okay. And Olive Barrows, I should also commend you very seriously. As a teacher of language, I never knew that on the other side of Kiswahili, you are very articulate and spot on. When you read out the Kiswahili version of the newspaper, I was like, is this Olive Barrows that knows only the Queen's English? And therefore, my two sisters, Professor and Daktari, have articulated themselves very eloquently on the matters of expectations. For me, as Otoa Sifuna, I'll just leverage on one thing. Mm-hmm. What is the confidence levels that we are building in our society? Mm-hmm. All along, Olive Barrows, the problem has been one. Did we onboard everybody, every stakeholder within the CBC trajectory? And the answer will be a partial response to that. For me, as a teacher, as an education stakeholder, I look at a situation where we build the confidence in the whole process. Not that we have got some dissenting voices. You know, this is a national idea. It is a national trajectory. It's a national discourse. It is a national transformation. So for us, CBC, in as much as if you ask my own honest opinion, Olive Barrows, I'll tell you that it was inevitable to have a curriculum change. The paradigm shift from a content-based to a concept-based kind of curriculum was long time overdue. So for me, and I had an opportunity to actually be invited by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to Naivasha to actually hold a 2-week-long panel meeting and looking at the curriculum designs. And I can tell you, the documentation of the curriculum design is spot on. It is one of the best documents that one can ever have. However, the problem that Professor Wandia here and Daktari will agree with me is that as Kenyans, we are very good at formulating very nice-looking documents that we put on the shelves and they start gathering dust. That is the only problem that we have. We are not insufficient of these policy documents. The Education Acts, all the way from the 1980s, the 1970s, the Ominde reports, up until where we are. All those reports were indicating that there is a gap in our education system. So for me, I just want to join my sisters to say that there is a disconnect between what we, the teachers, teach in class vis-a-vis what the 21st century market wants. Right now, I can tell you without missing a word, Olive, that if you did take a graduate, and it saddens me that every year the universities in Kenya are churning out many graduates. If you took a graduate either from Nairobi University or from Kenyatta University, where I was some years back, and you say that the Nation Media Group wants somebody with technical skills that maybe will help in fixing one or two or coming up with a certain innovation that will transform the media industry, you will be surprised that we are churning out much more theoretical half-baked graduates that lack the much needed technical skills. And I'm telling you correctly, because the other day I wanted somebody to do electrical fixing in my small premise somewhere. And Olive Barrows, it took me a long time to get somebody who will do the hands-on job. But all of us really want to graduate, and I'm not negating the work of Professor Wandia here. We are producing much more papers. When somebody walks along Moy Avenue with an academic angle of inclination, saying that he has a double master in physics, he is a PhD holder, but all this is relegated to the theoretical confines of what the universities are doing. So even Professor Wandia, you are not off the hook. What are you even doing at the universities? And I'll come much later to that. The problem with our education system was one, were we producing the best 21st job market graduates? And the answer is no. And therefore, I will end this introduction by quoting that if we continue teaching the historical methods of teaching that we did 10, 20, 30 years ago with yellow notes, I wonder if Professor Wandia still has the yellow notes. Then we are denying the opportunity to these young ones to be innovative and apply their skills in a very competitive, ever-changing world. Right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that contribution. When we come back from this break, because we need to take a break, I'll give Associate Professor Daystar University, Wandia Joy, opportunity for, or rather a right of reply to this half-baked graduate's comment that has been made by Otoa Sifuna. Do you agree? Can we put the touch screen on so that I can just remind everybody what our Twitter handles are? Share your thoughts. We are very interested in having in hearing what your opinions are. Let me just tap the screen. Here we go. Which way forward on CBC for junior secondary students and forward on CBC and for junior secondary school students at WM Njoya, at Purity Ngina, double A at the end, at Otoa Sifuna. Mine is at O Burrows. I'm clicking my notifications. I am waiting for your comments. And when Otoa was speaking about a disconnect between what happens, between what the document aspires to and what is actually happening on the ground, different. I remember I saw, was it a video that was shared of kids being taught how to swim on soil? We continue the conversation on the other side.
Something, and then we won't talk about this again.
Were you able to find my dad?
Nicole.
Do you realize that your daughter has lived 9 years of her life without ever knowing her father simply because you thought it didn't matter to him?
Look, I didn't ask for your opinion, Mickey. I know that I did something wrong, and you know how much this hurts me. I hold the pan, you buffoon. And I'm going to make sure that you wear it as a hat for being such a crafty liar.
It had to be you.
Go is about thriving, reaching for the stars. It's about exploring new ideas, securely and safely, from the palm of your hands. It's go time with M-Pesa Go.
Do you know why they call me sugar? It's because I bring the flavor, the heat, the spice and the vibes on Kenyan radio. When a song plays on my show, it moves from being a hot song to a hit to a classic. When I interview you, you become a household name. And for every brand that advertises on this show, they move from being a brand to the brand. If you want to be seen, felt and heard, you know where to be. This is the place every Monday to Friday on 96.3 Nation FM. It's the Nation FM Drive with yours truly, Anto, Neo, Soul. So kiss, mwah! Every other frequency, goodbye, and keep it right here, 96.3 Nation FM, where good music lives.
On my doc marks, I've tried everything from A to Z, even vitamin C, but hardly any results. Nivea Lumina 630 works from day one, with visible results in just 2 weeks and 71% doc marks reduction in 12. Join the 1 million women already using the #1 Lumina 630 from Nivea.
know your flavor. And that's how you inspire us to always deliver the best quality meals made fresh with locally sourced ingredients. Galitos. Bold African flavor. Get the Galitos Hot Box and a 500 ml Coke soda at just 699 Kenya shillings.
Welcome back to AM Live. With me in studio, we have Dr. Preeti Ngina, Evidence Manager, ZZ Africa Foundation. We also have Wandia Njoya, Associate Professor, Daystar University, and Otoa Sifuna, Education Expert. The two of them are joining us virtually. That is Professor Wandia and Otoa Sifuna, who's joining us from Rwanda. Prof, what do you make of the statement by Otoa that we are churning out half-baked graduates? He's put you on the spot there.
All right. Oh, I don't even know where to start. What Mwalimu Sifuna is talking about is theory. Ironically, he's talking about theory and not the reality. The reality is that when you put a 23-year-old in a workplace, they are still young. It doesn't matter how many machines you have put them at before. They are still young. They have to acclimatize and they have to get used to the workplace. We have this myth in Kenya, again, another theory, that people can be work ready in up. When they land at the workplace, they know everything on day one. There is no such thing. Even Jesus took 3 years before he could start preaching, and he had another 30 years of working as a carpenter. There's nobody who starts working knowing everything. So this promise that we are going to have a curriculum that can make people work ready, I think we are not that serious. It's not possible, and I think educationists are talking up there and they're not really grappling with who we are as human beings and how the workplace is. Even that idea of 21st century skills, we are still the same human beings, and the workplace has not really changed. In fact, what has happened is that the workers' conditions have changed. And we can see this all around the world, where people are struggling because they are not getting paid enough to eat and to take their children to school and do all the other things. So the problem hasn't been with workers. In fact, productivity, if you look at the statistics, productivity has increased, but the salaries have not. Those are the issues that people are grappling with. So when we are being told 21st century whatever, it's the employers who have to change in the way they look at workers, the way they exploit them, exploit their work and not pay them. That's where the issue is. The issue has never been with people not working. And then even look at our graduates. We are exporting graduates, unfortunately. We are exporting them overseas to go and work elsewhere. If 844 was so bad, how come these people are able to go and work elsewhere and excel? We have Kenyans excelling in very many places, and they were graduates of 844. So what we are being promised, and in fact, for me, that has been my issue with CBC. I've been saying, okay, you justify CBC, but don't give us talking points that are not true. The things we say about work-ready graduates is not true. 21st century skills, there's nothing like that. And even the way the justification using human capital theory, that if we educate, we will grow the economy. That idea about education was dropped in the 90s by the same World Bank that is pushing CBC on us. Now, more people are talking about the development of the human being, the flourishing of the human being, the rights of children to education. That's where we are. That's where we have been since the 1990s. So that's what I'm saying. We seem to be stuck in the 1960s, even with the reasons we are using to justify CBC. And I have always said, just give me a convincing case when you're justifying this program. But to use old talking points and then tell me that this thing is new, I don't believe it.
All right, Dr. Ngina?
Interesting that a professor would see 21st century skills as not important, because research have been done and many employers...
I don't think she's arguing that 21st century skills are not important. I think she's arguing that perhaps it's a false promise where the CBC is concerned.
I think when we start with the 21st century skills, because I think most of the other things, she might be right.
Okay.
But on 21st century skills, research has been done, and many employers keep on saying that if you come to this station, I can build you. I can give you the technical that is missing. Maybe in the university, you didn't have all these gadgets. What I cannot train you is how to be a problem solver. You have to think for yourself. I can teach you how to be compassionate, how to be empathetic. The same way she's saying that we need to teach people to be human. If you're talking about children's rights, how do I get to know how to treat the other human being as a human being? Education has to facilitate that, right? And for me, I look at CBC. If you look at junior secondary, there has this curriculum of community service learning, which is very important because we need to teach our children to be selfless, to see other human beings as human beings. But in the process, as they do that, they are gaining other important competencies. The university umbrella in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania did a research in 2014, and the findings were that 53% of our graduates, this is done by university, not researchers from outside field, that 53% of our graduates don't have the skills needed in the market. These are studies done by people in the university. So what is the problem? Is a problem lack of resources in those universities to give the practical, what is needed? Or is it the way we approach education? Because I am a trained teacher, and when I was studying to be a teacher, I was trained more on mathematics and more on chemistry. What I didn't get is how to teach mathematics and how to teach chemistry. So send me to high school, I have the maths, but how to deliver it in a way that is child-centered, because I know I was taught don't be teacher-centered, child-centered pedagogical approaches, but then I was only having one semester, one course on teaching methods. So for university to be sincere, there must be something, especially in the Department of Education, because if they are receiving, the university, like professor, is going to receive children who have gone through so many years of training. And what we know is that if you want to change the brain, you change the children when they are quite young. So by the time they are 20, when they are getting to the university, it becomes very difficult. It's like rewiring an old house. Definitely, it will take a lot of time for people to change how they saw things being done, how you want them to start thinking and all that. And so there should be a way the university train teachers in a different way to approach their pedagogical approaches, whether it is in university, teacher training colleges. If we have to move from the documents, as she's saying, the CBC document, to something that is more realistic, the document will be there, but then the person implementing, the person who is going to nurture, to develop some of these skills has not been probably well trained. And I think that we must point it out, that the teacher training colleges has a big responsibility. Even the university have a big responsibility. And I said we have to relook at what work we are talking about. So if you say that people are going outside, which is very nice, what about the ones that have been are in our villages, the ones that are helping us in our farms? Because most of us are farmers, whether you're farming a small farm or a big farm. You need them to have the skills needed. And work is work. For me, I feel like sometimes when we talk about work, we are only looking at one that you get paid by someone else, or you get to be known because you're dressing nicely. Sometimes I'm having a conversation with someone who works in a OLX, that company, and he said that the people who transport those things, delivery people, they get more than 60,000 a month. And I'm looking at some people who have good jobs, good jobs in our own way of thinking, they get less than that. So we need to really relook at what work are we talking about. And for me, education has to build someone who is able to thrive. And if education doesn't do that, then we are missing the point. Can we justify that 844 was good? I think many children, we lost many of our colleagues, most of our friends they are still back somewhere with no direction. And I said 60% of the people got a D+ and below. I'm not saying that all of those people didn't get somewhere. I don't know where they have gone. Studies need to be done to see whether if you churn out and 60% get a D+ and below, where do they go? Do they become better, or is their life done? And if that is the case, then which is this curriculum that can help everybody to move forward? But if you look at, I was looking and conversing with teacher about these exams that have just been done by the grade 6. One of the things I agree is that sometimes we have very nice documents, but then it doesn't translate to what the intention, the bigger picture was. Because we are talking about competence-based curriculum, right? But the exams that they were given was objective, multiple choices. But all along, children have been trained on structured way of thinking, open-ended. They were to think for themselves. And only at this year, mid-year, the teachers were told now the exams that is going to come will be ABCD, and you need to train the learners how to respond to this question. What does that take away from the learner? I understand the government or the people who made that were looking at the marking. But then if you look at the child who have been trained on how to think outside the box, how to play with answers, how not to, any answer is a right answer and it is correct because you can exceed, you can meet expectation and all that. But now you're putting them to pick only one out of the 4 choices. It means you are limiting their capability to think. And I think consistency is very important from what was the idea that we needed to build children who are able to think outside the box. But then when you go again, because what we know is that exam, assessment, dictate instruction. Every teacher now is going to look at that grade 6 paper. And to be sincere, next year, many teachers are going to change the way they approach education, the way they approach any content, because they are always guided. Hey, what question was asked? How was it? You do analysis. A study done in 2017 pointed out that most of the exam questions end up being repeated, and maybe not word to word, but you can tell that the question 1 of maths will be logarithm, or if you are in primary, it will be numbers. So you're able to understand how the exam is structured. And then, as a teacher, you just need to support your learners to align to that. And so if the exams, then it is this objective, of course I question why they call it objective when it is ABCD, and you had trained your children to think, then you see there's no correlation. So at